Now, while authors and sales gurus, such as myself, may tell you that building trusted relationships is the right way to go, of course, the real proof is, does it help you to build your business, and does it help you to be more successful? Well, the good news is that it does. Through building more trusted relationships with your customers and your clients, you tend to spend less time prospecting, you spend more time in meetings that are more valuable, you generate more revenue because clients share more information with you and you're able to identify more opportunities to assist them. Your margins tend to improve because, again, you're spending less time prospecting, less time in meetings that go nowhere. And ultimately, through saving yourself time, through having more productive meetings, you actually have a greater sense of fulfillment about the work that you're actually doing. Contrast that with more traditional sales approaches, where people make X number of calls to get Y number of meetings, which they rather hope will lead to Z amount of business. Okay, it's very much a numbers kind of approach. And in fact, like this approach where you're going through the numbers and working the phones and working the meetings tends to lead to situations where people walk into a conversation with a client or customer, they talk about themselves, they talk about their product, they talk about the features and maybe some benefits, but effectively they're making a sales pitch. And it doesn't always feel so good to the other person. The other person tends to feel like they haven't been listened to and that someone has just been pushing a product or service towards them. Now, I'm sure you've heard this before, but what may surprise you is that these types of approaches, where ABC, always be closing, the notion of open, closed, and probing questions, handling objections, these types of approaches, this sort of language, very much comes from the early part of the 20th century. And in fact, two of the seminal works on which a lot of people still base their sales were a 1925 book by E.K. Strong called The Psychology of Selling Life Insurance. And of course, another book which has a lot of good stuff in it too is Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, which was written back in 1936. So yes, there may be some age-old wisdom in this book, but I think we should also recognize that the world has changed an awful lot and therefore approaches need to be updated. And the IOU approach, with its starting point of what's in it for the other person as opposed to what's in it for me, sits very well in a modern world where people have an awful lot more knowledge and an awful lot more choice of who they decide who they want to work with.